Now we've pressed this down all the way around and we're back to the little X's right there. And my one little X is going away because it's heat sensitive, so I gotta make sure I know where I'm at. So I'm gonna put a pin in here because it's starting to go away with the heat. I've got it 3/8 of an inch pressed flat all the way around, and now it's holding it down so that it's really great and I don't have to pin it or anything. So I want to show you what we're making now. Now we're going to turn this and pin it down to make this casing right here that your elastic goes in. So that's what we're making right now, the top of the pajama pants where the elastic goes in. Now we need to make sure that it's wide enough this way to get your elastic through. So if you have an inch wide elastic like I told you to buy, you need to measure the width of that elastic and make sure it's an inch wide. If it's more than or less than an inch wide, you need to fix it. Can you see this one? This was one made by a student that's buckling and you can barely get the elastic through because they sewed this casing way too small. And so it barely can hold the elastic and it's pulling and misshaping the pants. So you need to make sure that your elastic is an inch wide. If it's bigger than that, we need to make the casing bigger, and you may need to FaceTime me or video me, and we might need to talk about it so I can check what you're doing. So now we're gonna take this and we're gonna set our seam gauge at 1.5 inches because that will allow us an extra 1/2 inch to work with for stitching and ease to make it easy for that elastic to go through this tunnel or casing that we're making. Then we're gonna pull this nice finished edge down here, and I'm gonna put this down here a little farther so I know that's the back. And I'm gonna pull it down, I'm gonna put my seam gauge on it, and I'm gonna push it up to 1.5 inches. And I'm gonna put a pin in. And I'm gonna put the pin on either side. I'm gonna pin on either side of this seam allowance, or this seam. And I'm gonna make this seam here, as I fold it back, line up with the seam below it. Then I'm gonna put my seam gauge here, and I'm gonna push this up. It's kind of circular around the waist, so you're gonna push it up to make it 1.5 inches to get that circular shape that we've got. And I'm gonna put a pin in there. We're gonna leave about a 2.5 or 3 inch opening right here, which is the entrance to the tunnel to let our elastic go in. So we're gonna put double pins here because double pins mean start and stop. When you see a double pin, you stop and start sewing. So that will remind us to leave this open so we don't sew it up and have to unpick it. Then we're gonna rotate this around. And now I know that's the back, so I can take that out because it's got the double pins in it. We're gonna rotate this around, and we're gonna move across here, and we're gonna push it up to 1.5 inches with our seam gauge. And when we get it at 1.5 inches, we're gonna put a pin in there. Now when we do that and pull it apart, it pulls this because 2 points make a straight line. Geometry, we're doing hands-on geometry. It's gonna make it so that it pulls it almost right on to 1.5 inches all the way around. But you better check it, because if you don't, it's gonna look bad because it's gonna go wide and skinny and wide and skinny all the way around, and it shows on the front of your pajama pants. So you want it to look really nice so people go like, where'd you get that? Instead of, you made that, didn't you? Okay, then we're gonna rotate it around. That's why it's so great to work on the ironing board, and you guys are lucky you're working at home. When you work at school, y'all have to share the ironing boards, and then it takes forever to wait in line for the ironing board. And you're gonna go like that and just measure it around and get pins in about every 2 inches. And just estimate it. You don't have to measure the 2 inches, just use your estimating skills. And if you get any puckers, you're gonna flatten them out and make sure it lays really flat together all the way around, nice and flat, so that it's nice and flat when you're sewing it so you don't get puckers and tucks. And you're gonna finish that all the way around to the other side. When you get to this seam, you're gonna measure that, and you're gonna put a pin in, and you're gonna line this seam up and match it up right to that seam. I'm laying them and matching them right on top of each other. And let's make sure, because that feels like it's make sure that this lays flat or it's hard to get the elastic through. It was twisted like that, and then the elastic has a hard time getting past that. So make sure it's laying flat when you pull it down and measure it. You gotta push it back up. Taking a little bit of time to measure it makes it look really professional and nice and gives it that really nice. People, you'll be proud to wear them, and you'll wear them for a long time. Most of the kids that I have taught how to make pajama pants are still wearing them at Skyline when they graduate. They'll come back and visit me and say, I'm still wearing the pajama pants I made in your class, and they're getting really comfy, and they're still wearing them. So make it nice enough that you are proud to wear them. You're putting a lot of time into this. Make them nice. You're going to go all the way around to the other side, and then we'll start the next step on the videos.